Hi everyone, welcome to Ancha Academy. This is part 2 of the series. So in this tutorial we will learn how to use Automapper and projection to query the database and also use the mapping functions available to map from one property to the other. So in this tutorial we will start by creating the DTO models, and then we will see how the Automapper mapping is done and then how to use it in the CRUD operations. So here are the two packages that we will be using in this tutorial. So this is the same application that we left off in the part 1. I will put the link for the GitHub repo in the description. Now in this application, so when we are running it, so we do have a few methods that we created, and then if I execute the get product, it's going to give all the products. Now the problem with this is we are returning all columns, all data into the UI screen, and which may not be a good idea, and depending on the situation we may want to return only few data. So we will see how we can do that using Automapper. So to do that, let's first create a folder. So we have all the models here which we are returning now. If I show you the database access here, so here in the get products, we are returning the actual product itself. So all the product, uh, the model which is from the database is being returned entirely. So in order to avoid this and then just return what we need, let's create a folder here. I'll call it entities, and then I will add a folder for product, and then I will add a class here, I will call it product DTO. Now in this class, we will see what all properties that we want to show to the user. So to do that, we will first open up the product model, and then from here we will copy few properties that we want. So maybe these three properties, and then I'll copy the color, I'll copy the color property, and the list price. So these are the properties that I want to return to the user. Now in order to in order to not manually map it, we will use Automapper, and I'll tell you how to use it. And then also I will just change some of the properties, like I want it to be displayed in the UI. So it will be like ID and product name, whereas in the database it is product ID and name. And then since it's going to be a model by itself, I'm going to add the key to this so that it is identifiable. So the ID is the key. Now with this done, we need to somehow add the mapping, right? First Automapper and then the mapping. So to do that, I will go to the package manager and search for Automapper. So this is done. Now, in order for me to use the Automapper, I need to also add it to the API project, and then I would also like to add the dependency injection package. So once I do that, I'll go to the program files. Here I will try to add this builder.services.add Automapper, and then I'm going to say app domain dot current domain dot get assemblies. So what this will do is it will add the Automapper. It will scan all the assemblies and then it will add Automapper to that. Very simple. Now let me go back to my class that I created. So here I'll create another class. I will call it product DTO mapper, and then it will inherit from a class called profile. Then I will add a constructor. Here I will use a method create map, wherein I will say, okay, how to map product DTO into models.product. Now if you remember, we changed the ID and product name, so it's not the same. So for those we need to specify how to change it. So source product ID is equal to destination d map from ID for member name d dot map from product name, and then we're going to use something called reverse map so that the mapping happens both sides. So if you see this correctly, you can see that what we have done here is we have created a mapping between these two classes, and then wherever the properties are different we have specified how to map it. This is all you need. Now in our data access layer, where I have this get products class, here instead of returning product directly, now I will return product DTO. Now how do we implement that? In the database project where we have product, I will say DTO, bring in the namespace. So here I'll first query the products from the database, and then I'm going to I need a way to map it, right? So I got the products here, and I need a way to map it to the product DTO. So in order to do that, I'm going to bring in something called imapper. call it mapper, and then I'm going to create a read-only property for that. Now what I will do is I'll create product DTOs equal to mapper dot map product DTO, and then if you see here it should be a list of DTO, because that's what we are getting from the database. So I'm going to say list of product DTO, and then I'm going to pass products that I got from database, and then I'm going to return product DTOs. Okay, now let's see if this runs. Yeah, so you can see that now instead of returning all the products, all the columns, we are only returning only the required columns that were there in the DTO. Now, so far so good, it all looks fine, but there is a problem here. The problem is if you see the query that was fed to the database, you'll see that we are not only querying for those four columns, but we are querying for every column here, because the problem is here we are first getting the products and then we are converting it. So the problem with this is the when we do this query, it has no way to know like what all the options that we are looking for. So in order to solve this problem, we will use something called queryable extension. So we can add Automapper dot queryable extensions. So this is an namespace that we will bring in. Now what we will do is here when I say products, inside I will name it product DTOs, and then in the project product where we have here, I'm going to use a method called project2, and then I'm going to say what we need to project. So here we need to project this to product DTO, and then this also takes it needs a mapper, right? So I need to pass in the mapper and then the configuration provider, and then I'm going to remove this. I think it should be this one. Yeah, so now what we did is we are trying to project instead of reading the product from the database and then converting, we are trying to use a project, so which will project the call to the database and then apply the mapping onto the query itself. So now let's see how it works. Yeah, so you can see the output did not change, which is good. However, if you see the query that was fired, so here you can see here, so only the items that we needed, so only the columns that we were interested in, only those were retrieved from the database and not all the columns. So you know, right? So now how to use the project method to uh, query what data we need. Now We also have one more method called get project by id. So let's create one more method for custom product. So for that, we will go back to the product. We already have the DTO, so let's do one more method for that. So instead of having only one method, I will add one more. I'll call it get custom product. Get custom product by id, and then this is going to return product DTO instead of regular product. So this is the difference. So now we'll go to the database, we'll implement that. Now here in the get custom product by id, in this method what we will do, we will say product DTO is equal to await context dot product. Then we're going to apply a where condition where x dot product id is equal to id, and then we're going to say dot project 2, and we want this to be projected like a product DTO, and then we need mapper dot configuration provider to be added dot first or default async. Now we will return product DTO. You can see here, so we just querying the product, however we are also projecting it. By doing this in the controller, now we will add a method, new method called get custom product. Now let's see if this works. So here is the method. So I'm going to give the ID. Yeah, so you can see that it returned only the 5 columns that we were interested in. And then if you see the database also, the query, you can see that this is the query that was fed, and in that only the 5 columns were retrieved. So this is how you can use Automapper and project to function to only query what you need and also convert it. Like for example, product ID, we are converting it to ID. So I can see here it actually converted right here. So as ID, and then name has product name, and then the rest it fired the query as is. However, here you can notice that we are not firing anything more than what we require. So which is the good part. Okay, so now similarly we will create a product DTO which is like, yeah, so one thing I will change here is I would like to change it to capital and then class also. Let's see if this still works. Okay, yeah, so it's still working, so it's good. So now we will see how do we use it for adding a product. So I'll create a class here. I'll call it add product DTO. So here I will again go to the product, and then since we're adding it, I will copy all the properties that we would like to use it for now into the add product class. And then as usual, I will change this to product name, and then this to ID, and then I'm going to add a key here. So you can see here I have different property names for some, but rest all are same. So now we'll create a mapper for this. Mapper, and then inherit from profile from Automapper, and then I'm going to create a constructor. Now here we are going to have a create map, and then add product DTO to models.product, and then for member mapping, and then finally reverse map. So this is how my add product DTO looks like, and this is how I am mapping it. Now in the interface, instead of sending the product, we will send add product DTO, and then I'll call it add product DTO. Now in your database, what we will do is this is going to be add product DTO. Now my input is add product DTO. So here what we will do, here in this case we need to convert from add product DTO to product. So I will say where product is equal to mapper dot map product, and then add product DTO. So now what we are doing, we are converting the product to product DTO to product, and then we are adding it to the context, and then we are saving it. Now same changes we will do it in the product controller. Here we're going to take add product DTO, call it add product DTO, and pass it to this. I will run this. Okay, so here is our add product DTO. In order to do that, let me first go to my original get product to get the one record which I can use. So I'll just copy this one, and then we'll come to add product. So here I'm going to paste this. I'm going to remove the ID part, and then I'm going to also change this because this is product name. Remember, product name. And then I'm going to change this to _5 and the number also to 5, and then this row ID I'm going to change it to, because they are unique, so it doesn't allow me to create a product if they are the same. So now we'll see if this works. Yeah, so you can see that it worked, and then you can look at the queries that was sent. So I can see here it did an insert, and then it returned me 1011. So if you go back to my database and then query for 1011, I can see my product that was added. So this is how we can use Automapper, like I showed here, to add. So I can convert it into what I want, and then I can add it. Now similarly we will do it for the edit. So for edit, I'll just copy this one and then create a new one. So I'll call it edit product DTO. I'm going to name it edit product DTO, and then here as well, and then here as well. Okay, so this is another one model I created for edit. Now let's look at the interface. So here instead of product, I'm going to pass edit product DTO, call it edit product DTO, and then in the database I'm going to change this to product DTO. Okay, so now how I will query this. So in order to do that, here if you remember, we had just updating the name earlier. So here instead of this, I'm going to say mapper.map edit product DTO to product, or existing product. So you can see the difference here. So in this case, we used a different implementation of the map wherein we created a new product. But here what we are doing here is we are only updating it. So the existing product we already have. So this is having a slightly different syntax. Now we'll go to the product controller and then change this to edit product video. We'll see if this works. And the ID that we got was 1011, so let's edit that. So let me get this one first. So I'm going to copy this, response, then come to the edit. ID is 1011, and then here the ID will be ID, and then the name is going to be product name, and then I'm going to rename 5 to 5A, and then I'm going to execute this. So you can see it succeeded. So let me come back here. So the 5 was there. If I execute again, you can see it got renamed to 5A and it returned success. So you saw that, right? I hope you were able to understand. So here we used Automapper to easily map between what we need and what is there in the database, and also we tried to query what is required and not everything that comes, right, when we just do the to list. So we were able to select the specific columns that we need, and also we were able to map effortlessly instead of mapping every property, right, using Automapper. I hope this helps, and if you like, please subscribe the channel, and then wait for future videos. Thank you.